Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Morning People. I am super excited about my guest today. Today I'm speaking with Misty Parenzan, the author of He Was Always There and The Unoffendable Wife. We get into some pretty interesting things. Lots of motherhood conversations. This episode does touch on child loss, so just listen with care. And there is mention of addiction as well. So just be mindful of that. But I hope you enjoy my sit down with Misty. And here's where I become awkward. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Misty Parenzan, and I'm an author and somewhat of a speaker, a mom of 9. I have 9 kids and a few grandbabies. And I'm known for just my raw storytelling. I've published a couple books. One was my memoir a few years ago, and then this most recent one is about living an unoffendable life. Well, it's called The Unoffendable Wife, but the principles in it are for everybody. My husband and I, we talked through, well, my life story is really, it includes trauma, it includes addiction, lots of loss, death of a child, redemption, radical transformation. Just, I have a lot of messes to talk about. And my husband and I love to go share very raw, real stories that can transform hearts and hopefully just ignite people to want to change or to have hope or to encourage people in some way. And so we live in Florida, and I still homeschool. I still have quite a few kids in the house. And yeah, I think that's just a little bit about me. Right. I believe pain has a purpose. Like it in my life, I've used my pain for a purpose. And so that rather than sitting in some ditch somewhere, just like overcome or, not willing to rise above, I believe nothing is random. I don't believe in coincidences. So I believe everything happens for a reason, and pain grows our faith. It refines us, and we can use it for good rather than, being disappointed or overcome with grief. Or when we did lose a child, our sixth child, sixth baby in 2013, we were so excited. It was our first biological son together. So after I had a son and a daughter from a previous marriage, but then my husband and I had 3 girls to back to back. So this next child was finally a boy. My husband is excited. I'm excited. I don't have to have any more kids and be pregnant again. And then at that 20-week ultrasound, we found out that he had multiple heart defects and various other things, so much so that it was recommended that we terminate the pregnancy, but we aren't the givers and takers of life. So we pressed on and pushed through. And although Sage, our baby, defied most of all the things that the doctors had said, he did live 3 days and then pass. And I think for us, we weren't really expecting him to pass. We really thought that there was going to be some miraculous miracle. We were just hoping for that story. So that year was definitely the most difficult year of my life. But my husband and I grew the most. We had to make a lot of certain choices during that time to keep our relationship what it is, because I had witnessed grief ruin so many marriages over the years, or just relationships. And so I was adamant and intentional that it wasn't going to do that. And when our son had his surgery right after birth and we were staying at the Ronald McDonald House, there was this woman there, and she was she's a volunteer. They have volunteers there. And she was making food. She was one of those volunteers. And so she started talking. She's like, "Oh yeah, I lost a baby 30 years ago." And she just starts crying. And I'm sitting there like, I don't want to be that. Oh my gosh. I do not want this to define the rest of my life. And so I just had this intentionality that I know I didn't know the baby was going to pass at that time, but when he did, I just knew no matter what, I was not going to let this define me and ruin our life, that there had to be a better way, that people have to walk through things all the time and we have a choice. We can sit there and be like, feel sorry for ourselves and, not go anywhere, or rise above it and look at it from a bigger picture and just be like, okay, where do we go from here? And so yeah. I don't know why. I think I just went off on a tangent there.
No, I love it. If
Okay.
you go back and you listen to my library, it is all a
Uh-huh.
tangent. And I am
Okay.
notorious for having a point trailing off and then forgetting what I even wanted to
Okay.
say. So
I was like, "Wait,
she
what was the question?" Ah,
this is the safest space for that. Like I said, like
okay.
I really want to keep it real and raw. And I did want to touch on the volunteer you were speaking about. And in my personal life, I have either been associated with by family or friends or whatever, families that have lost someone young. And I find it especially happens when it's a child or a teenager and
Mhm.
it turns into something you just don't talk about.
I share the story every May. I on social media outlets, I share the whole story of finding out and the process we went through, and for those people that have lost a child and think that there's no hope, right? I'll have friends that they lose a child and they're thinking their life is over, and I can come in and say, I did 13, he would be 13 this year, and I can honestly say I wouldn't change anything. Like, I made it to the point where I'm thankful I wouldn't have my last 3 kids had he lived, and so I see the bigger picture. I can see outside of it and be thankful I came through that walk or that journey, which
Mhm.
was something.
You are creating a legacy and creating this path for you and so many others who resonate with your story and listen to your story. They're going to remember him, so
Mhm.
you're
Yeah,
you're building his life through sharing it. Do you know does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly why I share all the stories, is
Mhm,
really just to encourage and give people hope. When people are hiding it, I mean, there's very few people, they put their highlights up, they're not true, it's not real. And that's why I share a lot about a lot of things, and people are always just, they love the realness. They love how raw. And it's truth that just breaks through barriers, and that's what we're wanting if we want to transform hearts and encourage people. It can't just be this like, "Oh, everything's perfect," and,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, I don't want to see that.
no,
Just trying,
no.
please.
Yes.
So when the other thing that you talked about was understanding that for you, you didn't want this loss to, I can't find the right word,
Define me.
not define your relationship. You didn't want it to affect your
Oh,
relationship in a negative way.
right.
And I was
Be
nodding along because that is such a common thing that especially child loss can just destroy
Yes.
a foundation.
It yes. I've seen it destroy marriages and, like, the best of marriages, and it's a lot of the times, it's like when it was the only child, right? We still had 5 kids. Life kept moving, but we didn't allow each other to check out. Like, we grieved very differently, but we made sure to connect daily, even how hard it was. We cried every day for the first year, and we did it together, and we stayed connected. But I do remember it was hard because there were times I didn't want to. I didn't feel like doing the work. I just wanted to check out and, but again, like I said, we witnessed couples before this even happened, stories of people that just didn't make it, and we had too many kids for that. I loved my husband too much, and so
Yeah.
we were just very intentional, and so we have an amazing marriage, and through all the fires and whatever we've been through, it's another thing I really actually speak on more than grief is marriage, and
Mhm, mhm,
relationships.
mhm.
So that's kind of a big passion of mine.
Yeah, no, but that's really good. And I think that we are so wrapped up in comfort and in
Mhm,
distracting ourselves from feeling what we need to feel. And especially in a relationship, we we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to start a problem that isn't there. So we just keep it to ourselves and we placate each other and then animosity
mhm.
grows. And when
Yep,
all of that is happening on top of child loss, it's a recipe for divorce, right?
right.
So for you two
Absolutely.
to be able to move through the pain together, move through the loss together, I think is amazing because it
Yeah,
doesn't.
we had to, like, schedule intimacy. It had to be like, people think that's lame, but for us to make it, we had to have specific days that we were just like, "Okay, these are the days." Because if we didn't, we it w it the fir when we didn't, it had gone a couple weeks, and I was like, "Whoa, okay." we can't, like, our marriage isn't going to survive if we
Yeah.
both check out of this. And so that was a time that we had to schedule it. And, and I don't even remember when we stopped, but it was just during that season that was one of our tactics. And so,
I think
yeah.
that's awesome. I really do,
Yeah.
because it you were building like a survival guide,
Hmm.
and actually sticking to it. And I think that's great, because that's part of the thing that you said was you wanted to just check out sometimes, and you didn't want to do the work all the time. And
Yeah.
that's the biggest hurdle in healing, is sometimes you don't want to, and you want to take a break, and it's okay to honor that too, and it's okay to take a step back when you really feel you need to. But the most important thing is getting back into it,
Right.
and continuing to do the work. And I guess when you have a partner who's willing to do the work too, it's a
Yes,
little
it did
less
help that we were
lonely.
both, yeah, we were both, we were both on the same mission. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't like one of us was wanting it and the other one wasn't. So it was nice that we both had the same desire, and so that helped for sure.
Mm, mm. With your other children, and this is just my mind kind of wandering while we're talking, like,
Mhm.
how do you help them through that? What I can't even wrap my mind around
So
something like.
so the sad part about that is that all those years ago, I didn't really realize that they would grieve. In my mind, I was pregnant with this baby. We went away to have him. I did not bring the kids when he passed. I didn't want them to see this gray, lifeless body. And so we just came back home and kind of we had a celebration of life, and we celebrated him, and we celebrate him every year. But that when that happened, I didn't really know the effect. And what happened was my 13 and my 16-year-old, they are currently my prodigal children. They are lost in the world. And it really that year, my 13-year-old daughter, she started cutting and doing a whole slew of things. And my son, he got into some weed and making bad choices and skipping. And these are kids that were never doing these things. And so my response at the time was not even of like, this was because of the grief of losing their that summer, my son who was 16 lost his brother, and then his best friend for 4 years moved away, and he was 16. And then his girlfriend of 9 months broke up with him. And then my dad, his grandpa, passed 3 months after our baby passed. So this all happened. And again, I was so out of it. I might have been intentional with my husband and very like we were like this pack that was trying to stay connected, but I didn't give the right tools for my kids. And because of that, my two oldest kids fell into this thing, and I took it as I got offended by them. I got like, do you guys know what I'm trying to do right now? Why are you guys acting up? Why are you doing these things? What is going on? Right? It was I it was the year I pulled all my kids out of school and started homeschooling them, except my oldest son who was at this collegiate high school. And so he just started making lots of bad decisions. And by the time he was 18, he had left the house. And it's been 13 years and he is still gone. And then my daughter left a couple years later, and it's a mess. But now I have perspective on it. Like I'm like, gosh, they were grieving the loss that I didn't know they experienced, and I didn't give them the right tools. And that disappointment in their adult life has taken them down a horrific road. And so, to answer your question, I didn't do a good job at all. The rest of my kids, they were all younger. And just our annual celebrations and our annual talks, and he's alive to us. Like we talk about him, we show pictures, we talk about all of the stories. And so they all are doing well. But it was those two teenagers that were also, they were already, these two teenagers were my children from my first marriage. So I also didn't understand divorce as a young person. I didn't understand the brokenness that's placed on a child after divorce. So I didn't give them the tools to deal with that either. So I just set them up wrong completely. And I'm just now believing for the day that they're going to, like me at 30, get their life together, because that's how long it took me. So I'm like, my son's turning 30 this year. Maybe like me, it's when the lights will come on and he will begin living again. But yeah,
Thank you
it
so much
didn't
for
do it.
sharing that. That is that's to recognize where we have gone.
Ugh, I
I
know.
don't want to say gone wrong, but made mistakes in
Yeah.
parenthood and motherhood. It's such a there's so much judgment and there's
God,
so much
yes.
misunderstandings, and especially for people in our sort of generation, like, we come from broken parents, and we come from parents
Yes.
whose parents were broken, and our
Yes.
generation is kind of trying to recognize that and parent in a way that we wish we had.
I'm
Yeah.
like, who was I and what was wrong with me?
Mhm, mhm.
So bad. I have
Yeah.
since changed. We can't change the past, but what we can do, my family is different now. We call it first family and second family. My husband and I, we were young people. We didn't know what we were doing. We were kids raising kids. And now we're, coming up on 50. We have 30 years of parenting and lots of life experience and
Yeah.
perspective, right? And so we can
Yeah.
look back and see all those moments that timing was horrible. I did horrible. And what was I doing? Why wasn't I just loving them and giving them grace and like they're kids?
Mhm,
Because I didn't
mhm.
know.
Yeah.
And yeah,
It's important to have these conversations, like what you just shared is really deep, really heavy, real motherhood. And if
mhm.
we are not having these conversations, then nobody else is going to know that it happens, right?
Right, right. That's right.
There's just I there's just so much power in sharing these stories. And for because I'm still so new at this, for me asking that question, you had every right to say, like, "You know what? I don't wanna talk about that right now." Right? Because there
Yeah,
is some judgment and shame in motherhood, but you went
I
there,
know.
and I think that's
Well,
great.
the only way to not have shame, right, is to bring it to light. And I have learned that. And so I have messed up in so many ways in my life. And glory comes when I actually share about it. And I've seen more than times than not that when I just share the crappiness, like the dirt truth, right? That's when transformation happens, or that's when the person is like, oh, it like pierced their heart, which is what I want. I'm not looking to like, tickle your ears or make everything sound all put together and like I'm just this put together person. No, I have sucked big time. But my life now, even though I've sucked and done all of that, everything is really, I'm very blessed. And
Mhm.
I want people to know if I was sitting in a corner just feeling shame. I have done that. I've had shame about the where my older kids are and they're like feeling responsible. And then the Lord will bring me people that their kids are doing the same thing and they'll be like, I did everything right. And I'm like, oh, so it wasn't about what I did, right? Because I, for years, wanted to blame myself for all of their, because I was in addiction for so long and when they had littles, because I divorced, that all the things, right? And so, but but because I don't have that perspective, we're able to move past that. So if people knew, if they just didn't have to go sit in their crap, if they got out and spoke to others about it truthfully and honestly, they'd realize that shame they felt or whatever, it would dissipate. And that is why I share. I know what happens when you lock it up in here and you're like, oh, yeah, I have a story, but I'm not going to share. I'm like, if everybody shared their stories, like you said, everybody has stories. If everybody shared, they would feel the freedom that comes in sharing the darkness, right? So I know that freedom because that's what I do. I just share all the dirty things that are so like mind blowing. People are like,
Huh.
you did that? I'm like, yep, I did. And I know. And so writing my first book, which was my memoir, it was therapeutic. When I wrote that, when I published it, I finally was able to look at that young me with empathy rather than shame because I used to be like, what an idiot I was. Why did I make all those decisions? Why did I do that? What got me there? And reading the story from cover to cover, I was like, gosh, that girl, man, she really had it. And I just have empathy for it now. And so yeah, I do find beauty in sharing the real truth and not anything sugar coated or something to sound better or whatever. I grew up with a mom that was always depressed. She was mentally ill. And so I think as I grew up, I just knew I wasn't going to be that. And so that is probably really the backbone of why when bad things would happen, I was not going to let them get me down, right? I just rose up and was like, no, we're moving forward regardless. When I was 18, I lost a boyfriend that I had for 2 months, but we lived together and I thought he was going to be like the love of my life. And he died in a rollover car accident one night. And it was very traumatic. And I just thought the world was over. I mean, I dove into drugs and I just kind of fell for a short bit until I got my head out of there and was like, wait a second, like, okay, we gotta move forward, you know? And so but I think it was seeing that growing up, like, I don't want to be depressed or shamed or all of those things this, that she still is today. I mean, she just never got mentally well. And so that probably had something to do with why.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny when your purpose is to not be like your parents so that your children
Yeah.
want to be like you, right?
Yes. Goodness, yes. Exactly. So that and I have, I have a great relationship with the rest of my kids. So other
Mhm.
than the two oldest, we have
Yeah.
done a really good job of our kids want to be with us. They choose to be around. And that's huge. It's
Mhm.
because I didn't have that before. And so
Yeah.
whatever we're doing now, it's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And to this is what I think is so interesting about this community and about grief in general is it's never just one thing. It's
Right.
always, you know, one incident on top of another. There's so many layers, and with those layers come a million different emotions and
Mhm.
a million different intersections of grief in in themselves. And,
Yeah.
so like you didn't recognize that your children needed something from you.
Right.
There's another layer of grief on top of child loss
Mhm.
and, the shame and guilt that comes with that, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
You have to grieve those relationships that you never saw come to fruition. You have to grieve
Mhm.
who you were as a mother back then. You have to grieve who you could be as a mother to them now. Like it
Yeah.
and that's why I think people get so scared to really allow themselves to feel it is because it is overwhelming. It is
It
overwhelming and
is.
there are so many pieces to it. And I really applaud you for sharing those stories because it really does help create such a safe space to be
Mm.
imperfect and to make mistakes and to recognize it and do better from it.
Right. Well, good. That's what I hope people see when I
Yeah,
share.
yeah.
So,
I really am enjoying connecting with women who are so strong and who understand like their worth and who aren't hiding. I
mhm.
love a woman who isn't afraid to take up space and just speak their truth. And it's really inspiring for me as somebody who is new to all of this.
Yeah.
So I'm really just loving like connecting with all these inspirational women and maybe a man one day, but
Such a heart for you to wanna go and talk to women and pull these things out of them, and I applaud you for that. Oh, I mean, so my memoir currently is not available anywhere for purchase online because I've been banned from Amazon. So, I guess that's a win finally to be
what?
banned from Amazon. It's a long story, but it is currently I'm currently having to republish it. So that one is I only have copies myself that I can send out, but it was kind of a it's just one of those things, lots of things along the journey and trying to get the new book out, and that happened. But my newest book, The Unoffendable Wife, is really, it came from a personal thing that I did 5 years ago. I was challenged by the Lord to not let my husband offend me for 30 days. And me being an only child and like having the master bedroom in high school, like I pretty much grew up thinking that the world genuinely revolved around me and my preferences, my likes, my dislikes. I ran the show, I ruled and reigned. And so in my marriage, which we've always had a really great marriage, but I still was the brat. I still liked my way all the time. I like to be right. I like to prove my points, which also isn't great in parenting. But I just always was just like, I'm the boss and I want my way. Well, 5 years ago, I was challenged to kind of not have my way and just kind of not get irritated, not be bothered, not be offended. And so I started that journey and it actually ended up really changing me. And I became a more peaceful, freer, just happier person because I was no longer going around just picking apart things or responding for things I didn't want. I kind of learned how to pause when things were said and most of the things that I would react to because I was just a reactor like, "Hey, what?" bad tones or, cold shoulder or whatever. And when I actually put this pause into practice, like just thinking, taking a deep breath before responding to anything, so many of the things that I would react to never needed a reaction.
Mhm.
And here we are 5 years later, and this has been a movement, like being unoffendable, walking unoffendably. So many people, come on, offense is like the thing everywhere, right? You can't do that. I'm offended. You can't say that. That offends me. You can't. It's just ridiculous, right? And so my purpose these days is to explain to people and encourage people to not let things bother them, not get bothered by every little thing. And so so this book is a 30-day devotional written to a woman, really, and the principles in it. The principles are for anybody, but it's 30 days of stories of things I used to get offended to, how I responded differently, and then what it looks like now. And I'm just really excited for this book because I feel it's a need and I hope it transforms marriages, relationships, parenting. It's changed how I parent, it's changed how I respond to people, to phone calls, to everything. I just have a different perspective. And so it has been and it's been a really long thing of getting it released with all the hoops I've had to jump through but I'm just really excited. And so I just got my box of books in today, the day after I spoke, of course, because, the box had to get lost along the way and everything had to happen to it. But it's just par for the course. And my life is always
Yeah,
full of, fun stories.
I
But yeah.
connect with that for sure. I
And
think that's
so,
great.
yeah.
I I I am not a religious person, but this space is for everybody, and I get to choose who
Yes.
comes in this space, and I accept everybody's, you know, faith
Right.
and beliefs, whatever. But just it's such an interesting concept to me, and it's such a helpful thing to learn how to just let some things go. Taking that step back and going, why do I care so much about
It's
literally
so
nobody in
freeing.
my household cares about this.
Yes.
Why is
I
it such a
know.
big deal to me? Right?
Yes. So I have
Yeah.
let go of control in my home. And my kids have noticed. They're like, "Mom, why are you not beating that drum?" I'm like, "Because it's easier not to." Like, and being right now, like everybody, I know that I'm right all the time, but now I don't need to make sure everybody else knows it. So when we're in a conversation or my husband will be like, "No, don't you?" And I'm like, "You know what? You're right, babe." And I just kind of walk away and chuckle. And I'm like, I don't care if he knows I'm right or not. I know
Mhm.
that I'm right, and I can
Yeah.
just let him believe it. And so before I'd be like, "No," and I would just have this. And so it has just changed me. And I get that you're not a religious person, and the reason I am a religious person is because I was a drug addict, like a meth addict for a decade, and
Yeah.
God took that I had this instantaneous deliverance 20 years ago and I couldn't deny what happened, right? Like
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
had this desire forever and I just all through my first few pregnancies, it was just the way I was just a closet addict that functioning. Nobody really knew, but he took that desire from me. And so for the last 20 and my husband saw witnessed the whole thing. And so the two of us kind of just dove in together, and we've been, serving the Lord since. But that is what brought us. When we got married 24 years ago, we both were like, thoughts on God? And he's like, I mean, he created us, but we're good. I'm like, good, we're good. And that was kind of our intro. And so it's very interesting who we are today and where we've been brought. But I love stories, and
Yeah.
I love everybody's story, religious or not. I just feel
Yeah.
like everybody has a power of something to share and something to transform or pour themselves into. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really, really great too. And another reason why I love creating this space so much is that grief affects everybody.
yeah,
Struggle affects everybody. And this is a space to feel that freely and to feel that without judgment and to really explore these conversations knowing that we are both in a safe space, right?
right. Yeah,
And I I just think that, emotions and grief shouldn't be something that is like a point of contention. You know?
right.
We shouldn't be
Yeah,
arguing about these things, and I really love that I've had people now from so many different spectrums of life that are all here for the same purpose, and I think that's really great.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I
even though
think
I'm
this
not a
space is
religious
great.
person, you writing this book, I'm sitting here like, "That makes sense. Yeah, we need to let go of little things." Right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. It just kinda transcends the I don't know what I'm trying to say here. It it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are, you know? We're clearly
That's right.
connecting, and we have felt the same sorrows in motherhood and like not the same situations, but the same
Yeah.
emotions,
Oh, the
right?
same. Yeah. Yep. When our kids are struggling, it
Yeah.
feels the same for
Yeah. Yeah.
moms.
Yeah.
'Cause you wanna just fix it for them, and when they become that age, you can't. They have to do the work,
Yep.
and it's the hardest thing to watch. They have to make it's their choices that have consequences. It's not really ours anymore, you know?
Mhm.
And so,
And
it
talk
is
about
the
letting
most
go of
difficult thing.
control.
Oh gosh, that was my problem with my first set of kids. I hadn't let go of control yet. I was still very controlling in their teenage life. I've since my current kids, my daughter just graduated high school in her last year. I gave her full reign to make all decisions and kind of like, here, let's pretend like you're away so that when you leave, she made all her doctor's appointments. She did all of her things. My
Mm.
other kids, no way. I still had my hands all in everything. And
Yeah.
so we just learn, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. My
I always
sister.
say I have 9 kids because I just felt like the Lord kept saying, "Oh, she didn't figure it out with that one. Give her another one.
Restart.
Like, let's go again. We're gonna restart. See if she does better with this one." I was like, "I guess we started doing something right because we got to stop." Well, I would love to, if you give me your address, I would love to send you both of my books just for, you know what? My first book is totally just my story, and it's an encouragement for anybody.
I would
And then the
absolutely
second
love
one,
that.
it's got some Bible stuff in it, but it still is about being unoffendable. So the principles
Yeah.
are all the same, but I would just love to
Yeah.
bless you with those. And
Oh
so,
my gosh, thank you so much. I would love that.
oh, great.
Oh, yes,
Yay.
thank you. Wow. And I'll have to
My
connect with
first
you
book is
again.
on Audible. It is
Is
my
it?
first book is an actual I did make an audio version of
Oh,
that. So
wow.
it's on Audible or Spotify if
Really?
that is still out. Yeah. It's called He
Oh,
Was Always There.
okay.
And but it is my voice. And so it's like 2.5 hours. It's not a very long thing, but it's pretty raw. So just be ready. Most people I've heard, like when they pick it up, they can't put it down because it is just my story from beginning to end. And it's kind of a page turner to wonder, how is this person going to turn out, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
But it is very encouraging. And
I
it's
am
just,
absolutely thrilled to read it. I cannot wait.
yay. Well, I will send you one. And yeah,
That's awesome. That's great. I really enjoyed talking to you today. Thank you so, so much for
Yes,
spending
thank
this
you,
time with
Nina.
me.
I'm on Instagram as Misty Parenzan. I also have a website, mistyparenzan.com, and you can watch like book trailer videos of both of my books and find out more stuff about me and how to connect really on it's just mistyparenzan.com. And then I'm on Facebook too, but it's pretty much all those are Facebook and Instagram are kind of the same. It's just
Yeah,
whoever's on which one, you know.
exactly. Yeah.
But so
Yeah,
that's kind of
cool.
where that's at.
Well, there you have it, friends. Thank you again so much, Misty, for joining me today. I had such a great talk with you, and it was really nice to just be able to connect and have these really deep conversations about the struggles of motherhood that we go through sometimes, and to just be able to share such dark moments of our lives, I think is bold and wonderful. So I thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your books. I'm really enjoying them. Yeah, that was a nice little surprise. I don't check my mail very often, but I did eventually get them, so thank you. Okay, friends, have a great day. Read Misty's books. They're very good. You're not alone. You're a morning person. Bye, friends.